One. Welcome everyone to Taco Movie Talks. This is episode and week 8. We're going to be covering Ignmar Bergman for this week, and I am joined by our wonderful guest, Ethan. Ethan, why don't you go ahead and say
Hello.
hi to everyone?
Hello.
So, there was a few questions, and also be sure to like and subscribe to this video and this channel, and also go to Film Junkie on YouTube, which I will link down below. Be sure to like Ethan's videos as well and subscribe to his channel. And I wanted to ask him a few questions about his channel to hopefully give you guys um, some insight into short films. One of the first ones is it we're not so much in front of the camera, but like recording and being the subject of material. Is it weirder for you? Is it different as opposed to being behind the camera for you?
Um, like just the embodied voice on the internet, or
Yeah.
like
And even
um
recording, because I know you had a video of you in front of, like filming yourself.
yeah, yeah, it's a little weird for me because I I'm not like very outgoing of a person, and I don't like, I guess, seeing my face everywhere, or hearing my voice, as a matter of fact. But uh when it comes to down to it, um, yeah, it is a little weird, but once you get into it, it's actually not terrible.
I agree with you. I feel the same way, like listening to my own voice. It is a struggle for me to like listen to any of the videos I recorded. It's
Yeah,
weird.
I feel like anybody, like listening to their own voice is weird because, uh, if you, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but uh, if you were to hear back your own voice, you would say, "Huh, that sounds strange in comparison to how I hear it."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it sounds completely different. You hear it on recording and it's like it's foreign and you know it's you. It's a really weird effect.
Yeah.
As far like what is your creative process? Like how did you come up with the plots for In 3 and Sitting Duck? And like what were your inspirations for that too? Because clearly you really love film and you have an extensive
Mhm.
background in consuming film as well.
I draw a lot of, so I just, usually what will happen is I could start to get a basis of something when I'm just thinking, just sitting and thinking. And if I can grab at least one idea, then I can go off of that.
Hmm.
And what ends up happening is, as I start to draw my influences from all sorts of places. So, like, uh, I based off my first short film, Sitting Duck, which I really liked writing it. I really liked the concept of it, but unfortunately, the execution wasn't what I was looking for. Unfortunately, but um, there's this. It's going to be a weird influence, but I was influenced by. Have you ever heard of the Czech uh, stop motion animator Jan Schwankmeyer?
No, I have not.
All right, so Jan Schwonkemeyer, um, James Rolfe of AVGN, has described him as, I believe it was Andy Warhol and Salvador Dali if you put them together and gave them acid. Uh, he is a stop motion surrealist who creates these extremely uh, bizarre creations, and his short films are some of my all-time favorite short films, just because he has such a weird vision, and it somehow is able to resonate with me, and I feel like it could resonate with a lot of people. So my favorite of his short films is one called Dimensions of Dialogue, which he made in 1982. It is composed of three separate stop motion vignettes. The first one is about three heads, each made with different, like what you would find. Like one head is made of food, completely out of food. One head is made out of office supplies, and one is made out of like I forget, but like I I don't remember what it was, but they start eating each other. Uh, and they just start eating each other over and over and over again until eventually they become clay.
Mm.
Um, and the second story is about this uh, this two claymation couple that are obviously in love, and they in a bizarre, they're like one of the most bizarre sex scenes in stop motion in like cinema history. They start to mesh together and they create this weird blob of clay, and so they start to fight over which one wants to take care of it, and so they start fighting, and in the same way, and then they just start meshing together and start fighting. And then the third story, I know I'm rambling, but
No, no,
it's
not
like,
at all. This is Dimensions of Dialogue, correct?
yeah, dimensions of dialogue. And then
Would
the third,
anyone be able to find this on YouTube, or where would they
yeah,
find this? Because I'm definitely interested in checking this out.
yeah, it's free on YouTube, so I
Okay.
think it'll be pretty easy to check it out. Um, the third story is about two other clay. They're just two clay heads, and they are staring at each other, and they present them. They present each other with items. One presents an item, and then the other one presents an item that completes that item. So, for example, one may present a pencil, the other presents a pencil sharpener.
Mm.
But eventually, over time, they start getting the incorrect complement. And so, the overall message of the film is our struggles to communicate. So, I wanted to take that and how we communicate with each other, and I made Sitting Duck, which is supposed to be about over the course of three separate days, a two complete strangers become very good friends and become so it's basically the opposite of dimensions of dialogue, in that how one conversation can have an impact on relationships.
Well, I really like that, and hearing the creative process, like it gives it a whole new wrinkle, I would say, like a whole new appreciation for it. Especially how you came at it from the opposite perspective and were able to execute that. That is really cool, and hopefully people will check this out and then watch it again because I like that makes me want to watch it again through that lens.
Yeah,
I guess just one final question if you don't mind.
not at
Um
all.
do like right now are you currently have a idea for another video, and this might be a twofold question. Is there any scene, like any specific type sequence or scene that you very much want to try and or are kind of like intimidated to do but want to try to test the water? like for example, like a dream sequence, like something that you'd want to do or that is intriguing for one reason or another?
hmm Well, I actually have started something. I started up a new script. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but um, I, all of my, all of my short films have come out of, like supplies that I've found in school. So unfortunately, because I'm going out of school, uh, those are going to unfortunately go away. Uh, but that doesn't stop me from writing.
Hmm,
And so I have started an idea. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere in the future, but I am liking what I'm seeing so far.
that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that for sure. 'Cause I do think you're very talented, you know, and
Thank you.
experience is going to, I think, really push you to a place where you are going to make feature length stuff if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, my friend, are you ready to jump into Igmar Bergman? I'm pronouncing that correctly. Stop me if I'm not, right?
Yeah, Ingmar Bergman. You got it.
Um,
That'll be
so my, I guess, first exposure to him actually came this week. It was just happenstance. I watched Wild Strawberries this week, and then you recommended him for our discussion. So there's going to be three reviews on him this week. And I think Wild Strawberries was like a softer landing spot for him. And then I watched Seven Seal second, which you really start to, I think, delve deeper into his creative mind. And then Persona, I think, really ratchets it all the way up. And I don't know if you agree on that.
I agree for sure.
How did how did you come to how was your introduction to Bergman?
So Ingmar Bergman, I've like read a lot about him and how he's considered by many to be one of the greatest filmmakers who ever lived. And so obviously, as someone who wants to be a filmmaker themselves, I'm like, okay, I'll watch his stuff. So I decided to start with a film from the late '70s. Uh, have you ever heard of the YouTuber Karsten Runquist at all?
I don't believe so.
All right, so he's this great reviewer, movie channel on YouTube, and he does these very interesting videos. And I follow his letterbox as well. And he said he puts Autumn Sonata as his favorite Ingmar Bergman film, at least so far.
Mhm.
Um, so I decided, all right, I'll start with that one. And it definitely gave me insight as to uh, how he makes a movie. And I often call Ingmar Bergman the king of dramatic tension, and that's where I got it from because he knows exactly how to create an argument and make it purely investing
Mhm.
just from the argument, the subtle camera, the subtle framing of shots combined with uh, the the editing and the dialogue, it pulls you into that rhythm, and it becomes deeply interesting as a piece of dramatic filmmaking.
Yeah, I now that you kind of put it into words, you're dead on the mark there. He's certainly really great at creating dilemmas in his films to make you look at a subject in a way where you kind of have to decide which side of the coin you fall on. And
Yeah,
through just, a few films, he is really, really good where there's clearly a plot within the plot, or there's more to the actions that are actually taking place. So in that style of storytelling, it's so expert, and I think that's what every director or filmmaker is really going for, but the way he does it is so, it's encapsulating, and it's such a clear, and like his vision is kind of unmatched in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like with these two films, it's like the actual steps that the characters are taking, almost seem to be more metaphorical or allegorical for what the actual premise is trying to achieve.
Yeah, but he's also a master of like he's also a master of pulling you into just two people having a conversation in his later work specifically because he did Autumn Sonata,
Mhm.
like I said, which is about a classical musician played by Ingrid Bergman, who is classic actress. She was Casablanca. She was in Casablanca. Uh,
Is that his daughter?
she's no, they're actually unrelated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I believe she's might actually be a touch older than he is than Ingmar Bergman,
Okay, okay.
and so she in the movie she has a daughter. I'm going to touch on this briefly, but she has a daughter, and she uh, has not been home for a while and has been kind of neglectful of her, and so that uh, awkward bitterness has fueled into anger. Uh, and so she decides to confront her about it, and it becomes a full fledged argument. So that's what I meant by like dramatic acting,
Mhm.
dramatic filmmaking, is that like he com- he completely understands the way two people argue, and it becomes super uncomfortable. He knows how to make it super uncomfortable, and it's genius. It's perfect. These two films aren't like just pure raw dramatic filmmaking, but in an allegorical sense, yeah, you're right. Uh, they are very enticing and investing, and he knows exactly how to pull you into those allegories and those themes that he's trying to communicate.
Exactly. Let's jump into The Seventh Seal, one of the movies we covered. Um,
Hmm.
for a brief synopsis, we have Antonius Block, our main character, and we start with a scene on a beach in Sweden, which is Antonius's homeland, and he's greeted by death. And he essentially says, "It's your time." So Antonius tries to prolong his life via a chess game, which I think for the time period that this is set, which is, I think, maybe the 16th century or 17th century, is
Somewhere
is
in the medieval ages,
yes,
somewhere around there. Maybe like yeah, maybe like 16th,
yeah,
15th century.
maybe even yeah, maybe earlier than that, maybe even like 1400s. Um, I guess that's like something that is depicted in the Bible and in paintings, that he plays chess as a way as a means of, giving people a chance at saving their soul. And
Yeah,
Antonius, once this opportunity of at least delaying, or if not outright, pushing it completely aside as a means to, I think, find God and to kind of redeem himself, as he is a crusader, and I think that might have very much put him into being a jaded person, or kind of losing sight that he might have had in his youth. And he goes to a
Uh,
city, finds a cast of characters, part of whom are an actor's troupe, and the other two are a smith and his wife, who have their own internal conflicts with one another. And we get to the ending, in which Antonius is kind of at a decision point where he's given what he thinks is an opportunity to do this redemptive act. And it ultimately kind of splits the group, and one has one ending and then another has another ending. I think that's as best as I can describe it without before we delve into spoiler territory. As far as summaries, there anything that you think should be added to flesh out that summation?
well, this movie is an absolute classic. It's definitely one of the most I would argue it's one of the most heralded from like an art house perspective, as well as just like filmmaking perspective in general. It's just all around it's classic. Not my favorite Bergman film. We'll get on that later, but it is undoubtedly a masterpiece, and I feel like, yeah, I think you described it perfectly. It is about someone searching for he's searching for a will to he's searching for knowledge. He doesn't ask for anything else, but he asks for knowledge.
Yeah, there's huge religious roots. They quote a passage from the Bible, I believe, and that is how this is titled, referring to the seventh seal. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's about a depiction of the apocalypse. I believe.
Yes, yeah, you got it.
So there's seven seals, there's seven trumpets, trumpeters, and it in what you said, knowledge, it is kind of, I think he's a crusader and he's fought blindly, and I think now that he's at the end of his rope, so to speak, he can no longer be fully invested in that blind faith. And he
Yeah,
wants for sure, like, clear as day knowledge as to what the afterlife brings. And that is a huge, I guess, conflict in this film.
yeah. He's ready to accept death in the eyes of death himself, but he wants to prolong his fate with a chess game so he can become knowledgeable of what is on the other side of his fate.
And that is, I think, something that we often kind of push to the back of our conscious and even subconscious, but it's always lingering, and it's to see it in a film, there's an innate kind of interest or morbid curiosity in that, and that makes this film very compelling, I would say.
Yeah,
And there's also, mention the actors troupe. He encounters a couple who has a child, and it seems to really resonate with him. I think it reminds him of maybe a life that he could have had, and I think that very much inspires his decision making, like later on in the film. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's deeply interested by them because they are the only ones in the movie that shall I say shall I say what it
Oh yeah.
he sees them as the only ones in the movie that are pure, just completely pure, because they're the only ones who did part with the rest of the group that Antonius had amassed along his journey. But the in the midst of the film, during the film, the husband Yoff starts to see Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus Christ, um, who the Virgin Mary represents the most pure things in life. She is the most pure thing in all of humanity. She's just the representation of purity. So it comes as no surprise that the one that is seen as the most pure uh, finds the most pure of images, and he's the only one who sees this.
Mm. And kind of digging deeper into the purity angle, the and I don't believe I mentioned this earlier, but there is the spread of the plague during this time, which
Mm.
like physical purity kind of ties into that kind of because it's or in a sense, being touched by this plague kind of dooms you to the end of your fate in a way.
Yeah,
And
yeah, mm,
it seems like those three, Yoff, wife, and baby, and this is where we're delving into spoiler territory, so spoiler alert. They are the three who do not become infected. They do not um, meet death.
yeah. They do not meet their fate with death.
I
Um,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, no, I was going to say the final shot of the film is them looking at death forcing everyone else in their group to dance. They dance toward the Darklands, and which has kind of sealed their fate.
Mm.
So
It's a
I guess I wanted to point that out. I guess.
it's a great. I think it's a really gripping ending for sure.
Yeah.
In a way, I feel like Antonius's character kind of reaches the full arc. And if you disagree, I would love to hear your stance on this. But he goes back to his wife, and it seems like not it's not like beat for beat what the passage which is actually being read as it kind of unfolds, but the six of them and death becomes the seventh seal for all six people, not including Yoff, his wife, and the child. And he also gets his redemptive act. So it seems as though, in a way, whether he realized it or not, the, I guess, truth in the Bible unfolds, and also the thing that he set out to achieve to give these people a second chance also comes to fruition. Like, is that the same way that you saw it as well?
No, I didn't. But that actually is a very interesting point. I never thought about that. Yeah, that's yeah, I feel like that would be a good explanation for it. Because I did not realize there were six of them. Yeah, there's six of them, and death is the seventh seal. But
I'm
that would
glad
also
I pointed something out for you because I thought it might be something completely off base.
no, that's interesting. But that would assume that because it's the lamb opens the seventh seal, which would make death the lamb. So that's very interesting.
Also, one point, it's earlier on in the movie, but it's a nice, I think, juxtaposition, and they come right after one another. There's a witch who is thought to have been in cahoots with the devil, and then there is a man who earlier on had been a priest who then catches the plague and looks to them for reprieve. And I felt the, I guess, trying to think of the words, the sympathy and empathy they have for the witch being burned at the stake, and then the lack of empathy that they have for the man with the plague is kind of a really neat element to this story. And they come right after one another, so you kind of get a direct comparison as to that, and how they find a young woman who is kind of being railroaded, and then a man who has a past that in a way isn't persecuted by law, but is seen much more definitively. His past indiscretions is given kind of no sympathy except by the woman who has kind of been dragged along by Antonius's sidekick. And I'm wondering what your thoughts on that entire sequence is.
Um, yeah, so that not only is the priest's past uh, rooted in deception and lies and just uh, horrible, horrible hypocrisy, but during the film too, he's just a terrible, terrible person.
Mhm.
Um, he, she, he's about to rape a young woman who's the young woman who accompanies them on their journey. Um, he's about to beat up this. He's about to beat the crap out of the Yoff character. Um, so it seems like he's just he seems like a plague of purity
Mm.
in some form. And then on the opposite side, you have the woman who is being burned at the stake. Um, she hasn't in the film. She hasn't done anything wrong, but she obviously has seen the devil, and so because of that, because she's like a sort of mingled with the devil. I don't exactly remember, but she gets burned at the stake for it um, because she has knowledge of the devil. I'm not. Yeah, that juxtaposition is very interesting. Um, I don't know if it's because I don't know. Yeah, I'm not very sure. If you have any like other thoughts on that, I'd love to hear them.
I thought it was really interesting because it actually had slipped my memory, but the only woman who was kind of looking to give reprieve to the former priest was the woman who was almost raped by him.
Yeah,
And you wouldn't expect that, obviously, but she was really the only one who felt any sympathy for him whatsoever.
yeah,
But and this might delve into territory that maybe isn't even an interpretation that was meant for, but there's something that speaks to me where it is kind of crimes, the acceptance of evil in the community is there's so much hypocrisy in the community. As you said, the priest was he was in a full bar, and he was like really jeering, beating, and embarrassing Yoff, who was giving up, basically giving no um, fight to defend himself, and they are
Yeah.
just so willing to kind of sacrifice him and and give in to this evil. And I think it it goes back to your point of the purity of this village, of these people just being foregone, and that the plague kind of is metaphorically the dirtying, well, I messed that up real bad, of these people's purity.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Um, though at the end scene, they don't, because I don't know if you don't know what happens to them, because it's not that they have the plague, but they're dancing with death.
Mhm.
Um, you don't know because at the end, at the very last line, is his wife saying, "You and your visions."
Hmm.
Um, so is Yoff seeing them off into the Darklands? Like, I'd assume Darklands may be the underworld or purgatory or something along those lines. Um, yeah, you don't know at the end. There's a little ambiguity to it as well.
That is a nice touch for sure, because like you said, the Virgin Mary, um, Antonius playing chess with the death, all of his visions, we see them with him, but that does not mean that it is actually unfolding.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts on the Seventh Seal?
Um, no, can't really think of it.
What would you rate this film?
This is definitely a classic. I don't understand all of it. I'm not a religious person. I'm much more interested in the psychological aspects of stuff, which we'll get to in a minute, of course. But I still think this is a phenomenal movie. Shot composition wise, alone, it's more than enough to call it a classic. I give this movie a 9 out of 10.
Yes. I give it 4.5 stars out of 5, so I'm right there with you. And definitely one of my new favorite films. Absolutely great. So definitely check it out. And now, as you said, we're going to delve more into the psychological Ingmar Bergman in Persona,
Hmm.
1966. Would you like to do the honors of giving a brief summation of this one?
Yes. So, Persona is about, as a brief summary, about a nurse who decides to take care of an actress who suffered a psychological breakdown. And so they decide to go out into a remote sort of beach house to be isolated and sort of calm her mind of anything. Um, and along the way, they start to experience psychological breakdowns, and eventually their personalities start to mold together and they start to become one.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Um, and for this one, because I'm absolutely brimming with excitement to like really delve deep into this one. Let's just go spoiler alert for it right off the bat, because I want to start with one question for you to see
Yes.
what your thought on this is. And do you think when they go to the summer house,
Hmm.
do you believe that the nurse was there the at all, or do you believe she was there the entire time?
Mm, I believe that. Hmm, I would say between those two, I would say she wasn't there at all.
That
But
that was the conclusion I came to as well. Um,
um,
that's what
yeah,
makes this a very, very interesting film for sure.
but that's one of many, many things that you get out of this movie. Um, I just wanted to say, I think not only is this one of my favorite films of all time, but it's definitely, I'd argue it's one of the greatest ever made, just because how much Ingmar Bergman was able to do in just 83 minutes.
Yeah, there are
It's
films that
astonishing.
don't they're not able to accomplish half this much in twice the time.
Yeah, it's astonishing how much he's able to commit to these themes and just bring so much to the table and give you so much to think about. It's crazy. And also, this might be the largest 180 of a like a opinion change on a movie I've ever had. So when I first watched this movie, I wasn't really paying attention. Unfortunately, I have a very short attention span as well, so I forget a lot of things. But um, I didn't pay much attention to to this when I watched it. So I was like, okay, moving on now. And for a while, it was my least favorite Ingmar Bergman film.
Wow.
And then, out of pure curiosity, I decided to watch it again. And I was purely engrossed, and I have never been more interested by a film. It was incredible. And so it went from I was, there were many things I picked up on, and I came to the revelation. I said, wow, this is pure unadulterated geniusness. So
Mhm.
Persona went from my least favorite all the way up to my favorite Ingmar Bergman.
Well, thank God for the rewatch, right?
Yeah, and then I rewatched it. This is my third time rewatching it for this. So thankfully I didn't have an opinion change at the last minute.
Well, first of all, I gotta say this is my first watch, and thank you for recommending this. It's been on my watch list, and it is like you said, pure unadulterated genius, and it is one of the most thought provoking movies I think I've seen. Period.
Yeah, for sure.
And a great deal of the conflict internally comes when the two are at the summer house, and like you said, they very much begin to merge. And so, let me just spew my interpretation out there to kind of
Hmm.
see where your head's at. It
Yeah,
seems as though this actress, she's clearly like very good at what she does, and it seems like she's kind of able to pick up on and draw inspiration from different channels, and that makes her great. Her,
yeah,
I guess, interactions with the nurse allows her to integrate this kind of in the role she's currently in being mute and silent, which is almost it's boycott, for a lack of a better term, of
hmm,
inauthenticity or not being genuine
yeah.
or
Um,
inauthenticity.
yeah. There's definitely an argument to be had that the entire film, uh, basically her entire life is depicted as a performance. Her entire life is one big play, and her performance, and yeah, I mean, it's shown in a more metaphorical sense when the film even starts up. because the film starts with a literal camera being started up and the rolling the tape, not tape, the film reel.
That is wow, yeah, that's a big just thought you dropped on me, because that the ending and the beginning were really the 2 parts that I really wasn't able to make heads or tails of, but when you say that, that really clarifies it for me big, 'cause I really
Yeah.
wasn't sure what that was trying to say, but that makes the most sense.
Yeah. Um, the biggest thing I take out of this movie in particular is the theme of duality and juxtaposition. Just the entire theme of it is juxtaposing two sides of a coin, and two sides of a situation. Um, and then to go back to the beginning of the film, it starts with um, the birth of film to violent, violent imagery shown on the camera, the reel, the film reel, and I I love everything it juxtaposes is so interesting to me. Like for example, after the camera, the projector. I'm sorry, it was a projector the whole time. I've been calling it a camera, but um, there's we see old people just sleeping on a table. It seems like, and it feels like it's juxtaposing that with the little kid who really later I believe is revealed as the son of Vogler, Elizabeth Vogler, who is the actress.
Mhm.
And so juxtaposing that I found is interesting. I don't entirely understand it, but it's just one of many examples of how the film juxtaposes things in reality.
Yes, certainly. And now, I guess with that newfound understanding, there's, I guess, 2 points that I wanna make because I think the son is certainly one of the, I guess, more major points within the overall conflict of the film, and
Hmm.
it seems as though maybe he's only seeing a projection of Elizabeth's what she wants to project to him. She's only getting the image that he only gets the image that she wants him to see and not her true feelings with him.
Yeah, but then in the beginning as well, that image starts to blur, and you start to see Alma.
Mhm.
You like it switches on and off between Alma and Vogler, and you it's like interesting. It's Yeah, and yeah, that what you brought up was interesting because it's the image that uh, he, she wants to project is very interesting, and the way the metaphorical senses, yeah, create like really creative.
And I think another like major point is I think the whole stay at the summer home is obviously for Elizabeth to or Elisabetta, maybe the Swedish pronunciation is to kind of become this fully fledged person as opposed to like a shell who is devoid of true attachments, true emotions, and to overcome what I think is her past adultery and um I'm trying to think of the word being unfaithful to her husband that she projects on the nurse, but I think is truly her past indiscretions, and to overcome I think there's a huge attachment between that and her child, which puts a bridge that had been too far for her to traverse prior to like fully digesting this and fully coming to terms with it. I was wondering if maybe you saw it the same way or if you saw it differently.
I didn't see it at all, actually. That's, yeah, another interesting avenue that the film takes.
Cuz it really blurs the line between what is the nurse, what is the actress.
Yeah.
And and they both have kind of thought patterns that seem to be very distinct to themselves but very much apply to the both of them.
hmm
Like,
And
go ahead,
yeah.
sorry.
Oh, no, no, it's okay. The I wanted to say this briefly, but the framing of the shots is the complete distillation of visual poetry, in poetry and film. Because my goodness, that's all I'll say is just my goodness.
Yeah, the shots that he's able to do, the visual storytelling is it is top tier, and to have that to be able to visually tell your storytelling in such a great way, to have a plot that's so thought provoking and a character analysis, to be able to mix all three of these, you don't find very very often, and is what
Yeah,
kind of propels this into being one of the masterpieces in the timeline of cinema.
yeah. Bergman takes those three elements and creates an ambiguous nature to all three of them. So, which makes it so you can go down so many avenues with it that you can find so much meaning. And that's why I think it's so genius because it Bergman has created so many avenues you can go down with this movie. Like whether it's the themes, whether it's analyzing the character, it's all there in just an 83-minute time span. And in that's insane. That's something that more directors are probably like crying that they can't do that. It's it's insane what he's managed to do.
And it gives the art to the consumer in such a way that subjectivity is what it is able to make you appreciate the art in possibly a different way, but you're able to consume it in a very you can have just as much appreciation for this movie whether you interpret it A through Z, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's really there's so much brilliance to it just because of what you were able to very concisely convey there. And I love this film. It
Yeah.
has infiltrated my top 10 all-time list. I gave this
Wow.
one a 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's possibly one of the most brilliant movies I've ever seen, and I absolutely loved it. So kudos to you and thank you for recommending it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I give this a 5 out of 5 as well. It's perfect in terms of art house. It's as perfect as art house gets, in my opinion. It's not in my top 10 quite, but it is in my top 50 though.
I guess just one more comment would be, it is I think a lot of people look at art house films and there's that dirty word of pretentiousness, and I do
Yes.
not feel that whatsoever with this film.
Yeah. I love to joke about it. I call myself the pretentious film buff because at the end of the day, I love that stuff, but I feel like the best you can do with a film is present an investing film on the surface and give you themes to work out on their own. And I think Persona just nails it.
Absolutely. Could not have said it better myself. What, if any, final thoughts would you have for Persona?
Uh, no, other than it's a masterpiece, and I feel like you could I feel like people could watch this. Like, I feel like people could watch this, get invested in it. I don't think as invested as we've gone into it today,
Mhm.
because there's so much to this film. But it'll just forever remain a masterpiece.
So, this week, I would like to recommend a theme for next week. Um, just a slight side road or side note.
Yeah,
There's a really cool list that I saw on, and I don't know if you peruse Reddit at all.
I do not, but go ahead.
It is there's a Criterion subreddit. So it's a
Yes,
community of people who really love the Criterion collection, which
yes,
there was a list of 100 best directors based on their own weighting system, which was pretty neat. And if just for your knowledge, so far we have covered actually two people in the top five by now doing
yes.
Igmar Bergman. Would
Oh,
you like
Bergman's top
to?
five.
Yeah, would you like to guess who number one is?
I would assume Hitchcock.
It's actually Kubrick.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense.
And then Ingmar is number five.
Yeah, deserved. The both of those are deserved.
So just a quick number game for you, and we're not gonna have to do any math or anything, but I'm gonna give you two numbers and you just choose, and that's how we're gonna come to our theme for next week. It's gonna be a director. So there
Interesting. I
is
like it.
do you like the number 20 or do you like the number 38 more?
Oh, oh. Um, let's go with a round number. I like the number 20.
Okay. So our theme for next week will be Yasujiro Ozu.
Ah, yes.
And
Ozu.
I guess might as well start with his most popular film, and this will be my recommendation, and I will give you time to choose yours. But I would like to choose, it's a movie that I've been wanting to watch for quite a while, but I would like to choose Tokyo Story.
Hmm. And I
There,
think I've already got mine. Uh, in mind because I've delved into Ozu. Definitely. Not as much as the other two directors, but yeah, Ozu is definitely a master. And so I am going to choose another movie with Tokyo in it, one of his most underrated, and I'd argue his masterpiece, Tokyo Twilight.
all right, that is cool. So, if you've made it this far, you can watch those movies this week so you can be able to hear our full spoiler discussion on it. I'm excited. I have never watched any of his films, so this will be my first two.
All right. Yeah, I can't wait for your thoughts.
Yeah, same. Just for your knowledge, 38 was Werner Herzog. So,
Ah, yes.
very narrowly missed the Zog. Um, he's someone who I really I have to give credit for probably maybe the channel as a whole because he's just been
Yeah.
really interesting for me. But yeah, I am so excited to delve deep into Ozu. Thanks for coming on.
Of course.
If you made it this far, like and subscribe, and definitely do the same with Ethan's channel and be on the lookout for any of his future projects. Great episode this week, man. Great recommendation for movie and great recommendation for the theme. I can't thank you enough.
Of course, of course. It's my pleasure.
So, thank y'all for making it this far, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Bye bye.